Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
5-0, motion carries.
Okay. Mr. Kennedy, would you like to give a background on this?
Sure. My name is Dave Kennedy. I'm the city manager. I don't know if anybody really cared about that, but I just thought I'd throw it in. Just real quickly, I just sort of give a little background. So on January 11th, City Council annexed 97.83 acres of what was or is still the Grail property. There was already 13.73 acres of the proposed development that were in the city limits. So there's, if you do the math, it sort of ends up with the number that we're at. City codes, specifically 112307, is very specific that all properties, when they're annexed into the city, must come in at RLD, which is residential low density. So this property, upon annexation, was formally zoned per city codes residential RLD. So with that, the applicant Dries Home is requesting approval of the special planning district, which we call SPDs. So if you hear SPD the rest of the night, that's a lot of communities use PUDs. We're a little unique. We use special planning district, but this process is basically the same. This, as defined within the city planning district. So Dries is requesting SPD to allow for the development of 209 lots consisting of 74 patio style homes and 135 traditional style homes. Lot range size ranges between a minimum of 6,760 to a maximum of 11,960 square feet, with a maximum building height of 40 feet. The developers are proposing access into the development both from Obanionville Road to the north and State Route 48 to the south, with entry signs, landscaped entry signs at each access point. The applicant has completed a traffic impact study by SHA Engineering, which concluded that an eastbound turn lane would be required from State Route 48/Oakland Road into development. So if you sort of picture on the entry into White Pillars, sort of picture a turn lane in there. The developer is proposing that all existing ponds within the property are to be preserved and maintained by an HOA. The developer is proposing that all open spaces, entry landscaping, amenity areas, trails, and sidewalks be owned and maintained by the HOA. They listed in their application that the proposed development indicates that approximately 83% of the homes within the development will abut open space. All public streets, stormwater, and water mains would be maintained by the city. So the process of an SPD is a little detailed. We usually tell people when we first sit down and talk about an SPD, we sort of tell them that the process will take about 6 months. We're maybe a month and a half into the process. So the way the process works, and I'm sort of like where we're at and what's next, is that city, our SPD process requires that all applications first just go to the Planning and Zoning Commission to determine if the project falls within the SPD purpose and scope. So the theory there is before any SPD, whether it's a Dries or whether it's a smaller operation, before they even proceed down the road of an SPD, they provide enough adequate information for the Planning and Zoning Commission to say, yay or nay, it does or doesn't meet the requirements in SPD. I will note that is not a public hearing. That is simply, are you eligible to move forward? If they determine that they feel the Planning and Zoning Commission, and excuse me if I say P&Z, but if they determine that the proposed project does fall within the SPD purpose and scope, then they set a public hearing, which is that same night. So this action was completed by the Planning and Zoning Commission on February 1st, 2022, at which time they determined that the proposed project met the requirements of an SPD, and at that night they set a public hearing for March 1st, 2022. We made a little error in the notification, and to make it correct, we rescheduled the public hearing to March 17th because we are required to meet certain public notifications. We missed one. So rather than forge ahead, we stopped and rescheduled. And that's why you're all here tonight rather than March 1st. That was on the city, with all due transparency. So following the action by the Planning and Zoning Commission on February 1st, which they've done, so now we're sort of where we are moving forward. The next step in the SPD process is for the P&Z, Planning and Zoning Commission, to take formal action on the SPD initiation application and forward the recommendation to the City Council. So I met with a scout before I met here and was trying to explain the process. But so if City Council has a series of committees that make recommendations on various items, Parks, Rec, and so on and so forth. So Planning and Zoning Commission serves as a recommendation to council. Ultimately, all decisions go to council. So when you hear them one way or another they are simply making a recommendation to City Council. So per the Planning and Zoning codes, which is the Bible and what we must follow, within 30 days from tonight's public hearing, the Planning and Zoning Commission they have to do one of three options. They can vote to adopt a motion recommending the initiation of the SPD to City Council. They can vote to continue the review of the SPD, and they can vote not to recommend the initiation of the SPD. Once they make that recommendation one way or another, which can be up to 30 days from tonight, then we have 30 days to take that recommendation to City Council, and then the next steps in the process begins. So before I'm done, Mark, I didn't know, maybe you guys, are everybody good with how I explained the process and sort of what we got here?
I think just to be clear, we're not evaluating the zoning, or I should say the some of the specifics that are indicated. That we've been given a concept plan and some other information. We're not evaluating the details of that plan at this meeting. We're just recommending voting whether to recommend, table, or not recommend it to send to council. And if it were to pass through council, it would come back to this body for all the detail.
Yeah, that's really why it's a 6-month process.
Yeah.
And also for all true transparency, when the city receives emails regarding projects from people, Eva prints them, stamps receipt dates, and we allow City Council access to those. So if they have papers in them, that's what these are, and these are certainly public records. So that's what these are for. That's traditional what Eva does. So I think that's all I had, Mark.
Okay, thank you. Next, we're going to have the developer come up and address the group, and after that, we will open it up for everybody to speak as well. So please state your name, address, and for the record.
Absolutely. First off, thanks everyone for your time tonight. My name's Matt Maines with the Dries Company, 211 Grandview Drive. I do have several of my team members here. Rick Paolo, our attorney, Jamal Adami, he's the traffic engineer who performed the study. Jim Watson, our civil engineer, is somewhere around here. And once I'm finished, if there's some more details, they might be able to help out with some of those as well. So over the past year, we've had a chance to kind of show this to several different groups. I know we reached out to all the neighbors that were notified for this once and showed them a presentation. We reached out to White Pillars and worked with your HOA a couple times to set up a couple virtual meetings to show them the presentation and really get some feedback, make a few tweaks, make sure everyone understood what we were looking at. So now that it's annexed in, we're excited to formally introduce Harvest, a master plan community developed by Dries. So most of you here are familiar with Dries. We are headquartered just across the river in northern Kentucky. We're a family-owned and operated business. And what a lot of people aren't aware is we do operate at quite a few places in the country, 10 major metropolitan areas, spanning from Cleveland down to Dallas. We're proud of a lot of the awards we've received, including America's Best Builder from Builder Magazine, National Builder of the Year from Professional Builder Magazine. And we're currently ranked as one of the top 20 private builders in the nation. And we have a long history in Loveland. This is one of our upcoming projects in Loveland area. This is a model home that we're going to be featuring in the upcoming Homerama at Chimney Ridge. And just wanted to sort of show that off a little bit. So before jumping into the plan, I think it's important that we review the zoning, understand how this fits into the context of the community. Again, as he mentioned, once everything's brought into the city, it's brought in as residential land development until further zoning is brought before and can be reestablished, or they choose not to. With this at 1.92 units per acre, it really fits into sort of the low end of that residential medium development category. If you look at what's around this property, it's almost entirely surrounded by residential medium density. So it really fits into that context of what the zoning is. We're requesting an SPD. If you compare it to the adjacent SPD, White Pillars, they're actually a little denser at 2.3 to 2.4 units per acre. So that's sort of a good comparison of what we're looking at. So then why an SPD versus a residential medium development zoning? Simply put, it's flexibility. It provides us the ability to offer a variety of sought after homes, ranging everywhere from 92-foot wide lots to more compact patio homes. The lot sizes that we're seeing are appropriate for what we see as the market demand. This is the lot sizes that our customers are asking us to provide. The flexibility allows us to better use the land. It allows us to avoid some of those naturally sensitive areas, places like the ponds, some of the streams that run through the site, some of the steeper hillsides that are heavily wooded. The reduced setbacks, they sort of pull everything closer to the roads, make it a little more efficient, allow us to kind of cluster those homes together. So it makes for a lot more efficient grading and drainage plan. So a smaller design footprint overall and less of an impact on the land. And probably most importantly, an SPD is a different concept than traditional zoning. It trades some of that individual ownership, the large 1 acre lots that are fenced in, that's that person's property. It trades that for community open space. So in this proposal we're putting forward, we're offering this community is going to have 37 acres of open space, or almost 34% of the site that's HOA owned and maintained. So that really leads us into the vision of what we have for this development. The Grail organization has explored various options for this property, along with the property next door to it that was eventually sold to the Claremont County Parks. That's 100 acres as well. So between them, there was about 200 plus acres just there. So like I said, they eventually sold that off to the Claremont County Parks, and now they performed a lengthy search to try to find a developer that really shared their vision. After responding to a request for a proposal and going through an extensive interview process, we were honored to be chosen as the builder that they chose to sell this land to. We understand that the land has a lot of history, as is evidenced by the support and the people that are here tonight. So we wanted to really create a community that honors that history, that shares the vision of not only the Grail, but of everyone else around, and connects residents with each other and connects them with the nature in and around the site. So we put a lot of focus on the open spaces. We put a lot of focus on the trails and amenities to really create a balance between the neighborhoods and the environment surrounding them. So with that being said, I think we can sort of start digging into the plan. The site's really organized, sort of a central spine down the center that, as you mentioned, has entrances on Obanionville and Oakland Road. It's important to note that all the necessary infrastructure is available adjacent to the site. So DREES is going to be responsible for all the improvements, including roads, undergrounds, utilities, grading. It's all, we found that all the infrastructure is adequate and readily available for us to tie into. With this plan, again, we wanted to create spaces for exploration, places to get out into the environment. We wanted to find places that residents could gather, meet up with each other. We wanted to identify where it's suitable for development, and vice versa, find areas that weren't suitable for development and make sure those are protected. And then finally, we want to offer convenient access to all these communal open spaces, the gardens, the trails, and the amenities that we're providing. One of the biggest selling points of this property is the park that's going to be adjacent to it. So we've been working closely with Claremont County Parks, and we're working jointly to provide a connection to that park So they would come in off of our entrance off of Oakland Road. I think after going back and forth, it's really difficult for them to access their park from their site, which is right on that bend because of the site distance and some of the issues. So again, talking with Claremont County Park, they offered to allow us, and they wanted us to kind of share a little more information. And so with the background of these both being part of the Grail property, I thought it was important that we kind of go into that a little bit as well. And they wanted us to kind of review some of that information. So the park was about 100 acres that was purchased using Clean Ohio funds. The front or the south portion of it, right along 48, is the front 8 or 10 acres. Is they have planned for some restrooms, shelters, trailheads. The rest of it is primarily going to be natural areas that they plan on removing invasive species, restoring it to a more natural habitat. And one of the things we're working jointly also with them is to install an overlook that sits at one of the higher points of the park. And it's sort of right on that corner that's right above the Harvest 109 acres. That's where we plan on having an overlook. These are just some conceptual images that they wanted to share. Things like observation decks, natural play areas. They wanted to have electric, Wi-Fi, those type of amenities there. So part of their literature, they said the Grailville Park was designed for a place for families and friends to escape the wilderness only steps away from their front door. So the partnership with Drees, I think is going to help provide them a few things. One, it's the safe entrance from State Route 48. A pedestrian connection to State Route 48. If you look at our entrance along Oakland Road and this park, it's about 1.3 miles from downtown. So it's a reasonable walk, and it's certainly a very easy bike ride to downtown, back and forth to the park. And so along with that, the stub street coming into it will bring convenient access to some of the infrastructure, so they'll be able to tie into the water, tie into the sewer, some of those items, and also, like I mentioned, the overlook. So this is what we envision for the overlook. Again, it sits sort of at a higher point in that corner and really overlooks that valley. So what we're planning on is a sort of a circular stone seating area, high point, trellis, and again, we're working jointly with the Claremont County Parks to make sure that it's something, once we build it, they're going to maintain and keep up with. So from there, I think we can transition into some of the more the amenities that we're providing internally to the community. Conservation and stewardship of the land was an important piece of the vision that we had at Harvest. So we can accomplish this, I think, in a few ways. One, rather than having large swaths of manicured, heavily irrigated lawns, we plan to feature a lot more open spaces seeded with natural grasses and wildflowers. We plan to include pollinator plots, and central to the site is we're featuring community gardens. The community gardens are really just a place where people can come together, sharing in activities that sort of promotes this idea of stewardship. It's a place where families can gather, grow vegetables, and kind of share in that activity. In addition to the standard sidewalks along the streets, scattered around the site, highlighted here in yellow, we've designed nature trails in and around to sort of pull the residents off of those streets and into the open spaces. The trails are going to serve as convenient arteries that will access the open spaces, allow people to get over into the park, connect several places into the park area, and just sort of connect everyone and bring them into some of those amenity areas. Scattered around the community, we plan on designing several pocket parks. We have a goal that every home is going to be within a short, probably about 500-foot walk to one of these pocket parks. And so it's simply a place, maybe just a bench and a garden, just a place where people can relax and enjoy the scenery. As Mr. Kennedy mentioned, there's a couple ponds that are existing on site. These are two existing natural features that we really wanted to highlight and enhance. So by cleaning up around them, we can open up views to the ponds, give people access to them, kind of pull people in. And the ponds kind of create the two ends of this natural greenway that's going to be running sort of throughout the neighborhood. At each entrance, we wanted to create an inviting front door to the neighborhood. So we're still working on monumentation that's going to come down the road, but really it's going to be sort of similar size and scope of other entry monuments that we've built around the area. Finally, a farmhouse style community center is really going to be the hub of this central amenity area that's sort of at the center of the site. So it's really the farmhouse style is meant to sort of invoke the neighborhood's history. The central amenity area will have a pool. It's still sort of being determined what all other amenities it'll have, but it'll include things like fire pits, manicured lawns for gathering, and outdoor seating areas. So shifting gears a little bit, we can start talking about some of the architecture that's being proposed. We really organize the community in 3 different home styles, kind of based on lot size. The first is the patio homes, are highlighted in blue, that are central to the site and flanking the amenity center there. Sort of the next step up in the lot size is 62-foot wide lots. These are what we're calling traditions, and they're located in the northwest and southeast section, highlighted in red. And finally, the larger heritage homes are located along that central road. The legacy, or our patio homes, will be on 52-foot wide minimum lots. They're going to range in size from about 1,775 square feet to about 2,300 square feet. All of our patio homes include lawn maintenance and snow pushing as part of the HOA. So all owners of patio homes can be assured that their yards are professionally maintained. And really, this floor plan and these style of lots are catering towards buyers that are generally looking to downsize but upgrade in finishes and features. It's usually somebody who's looking for less maintenance. And so for that reason, this buyer is almost entirely empty nesters, is what we're seeing usually when we sell these. Again, the next step up, the traditions lots, they're sitting on 62-foot wide lots. They range in size from 1,876 square feet to about 3,300 square feet. These tend to be more families, move up buyers. And finally, the heritage homes that are sitting on 92-foot wide lots, their footprints will range, or their square footage will range in size from about 2,270 square feet to about 3,300 square feet. These larger lots are generally attracting people that are looking for third-car garages, side entry garages. All the homes within Harvest are going to consist almost predominantly of masonry front facades, so brick, stone, hardy board, high-grade finishes. Although we're a larger builder, Dries is very proud of the customization that we allow with our homes. And for this reason, we allow our customers to choose a lot of finishes and features to make their homes unique and make the communities unique. So at this time, we're anticipating home prices to be in that range of about $450,000 to pushing well over $700,000, depending on kind of features and what the options are that are chosen. This is just a little bit of a matrix that breaks down how many homes of each style. So 74 legacy homes, 84 traditions, 51 heritage homes. It also gives the setbacks that we're proposing. Again, like any municipality, we understand school capacity is a concern. One thing to note is that, again, with 74, almost 35% of the homes are being patio homes. They're likely not to add any kids into the school system. And with the other homes, we're phasing this in over 4, 5, 6, 7 years. So it's really a phased approach that should give time to hopefully adjust and understand the impact that the houses will have. Again, this is how the acreage breaks down. So it's about 109 acres. So that's where we get the 1.92 units per acre. And again, 37 acres of open space and about 34% of the site. Again, traffic is we want to take a step back. We understand that Loveland is an exciting downtown, as we can see tonight. We understand that the success of Loveland and the attraction of Loveland brings with it traffic. So we understand that. So we wanted to kind of take the initiative and engage a traffic engineer with SHA Engineering. So the purpose of this study was to generate a traffic impact study to measure what the impact is this development is going to have on the traffic. So it was roughly about a year ago now that traffic counts were collected at peak hours. They estimate the number of trips generated by this new community. They use the International Traffic Engineers Trip Generation Manual to do that. It's sort of the industry standard. And then this is forecasted out for 10 years with a growth factor put on top of it. So we really looked at 4 intersections, and what we're trying to understand is what's the impact, how long are the waits going to increase in there. So intersections 1 and 2, the one downtown and then the one at Loveland, Miamiville Road and Oakland Road, they're both existing signals, and they're signalized intersections. So what was found is with this traffic, it really doesn't have any significant impact to the.
Please let him speak.
The new entrances at Oakland and Obanionville Road, what we're looking for there is mainly our turn lanes going to be needed to prevent traffic from backing up as you're turning in and out of the community. So there was no turn lane. It was found that no turn lane was warranted at the Obanionville, but at the an eastbound turn lane would be warranted at Oakland Road, and Dries again would be responsible for constructing that turn lane. And it's worth noting that again, that is the proposed entrance to the park as well. So just circling back to the overall plan, we're extremely excited about Harvest and the features that it provides the community. Now, our goal was to create a signature community, signature neighborhood that's going to become an integral part of Loveland. We believe that this plan is respectful to the environment. It maximizes the benefits of the area. We want a community that not only attracts residents to the city, but also provides homes to existing residents, new homes to existing residents that may be looking to build and stay within the city. So, and finally, with the adjacent parks, the ample open space that we're providing, and the amenities, we believe that we're holding true to the vision of giving families a place that they can connect with each other and connect with nature. And for those reasons, we respectfully request that you approve the SPD. So thank you. Again, me and my team are available to speak. Yep.
Good evening, members of the commission and residents. As Matt had indicated, I'm Rick Palo, the attorney for Dries, located Aronoff, Rosen and Hunt, downtown Cincinnati at 425 Walnut. All of you have a lot of experience in hearing these types of developments. I'm not going to go into a great amount of detail. Matt has done that very, very well, and ask for your consideration on the review process. As all of you know, that the primary concerns, especially when it comes down to Loveland, is traffic, as well as schools. You also get into, how is this going to affect my property values, and how is this going to affect my quality of life? One of the things, and I do want to remind the board that your decision-making process is a code-based process, that aside from emotions, aside from the crowd here, it has to be based on facts. The underlying facts are, as presented by Dries, including traffic. As indicated by the traffic study, there is little impact to the existing traffic pattern, and unless there is something contrary to that, which I suspect there is not here today, that cannot be considered in your decision-making process. Let me. The same goes for how is this going to affect my property values? Well, from a basis of 450,000 to up to 800 or more, again, unless there is quantified data to refute that this will not affect someone's property value, again, not for your consideration. It's what's in the best interest of the health, safety, welfare of the community in the totality of the circumstances. in reviewing this process for SPD. Let's talk about schools just for a second. As Matt had indicated, that this is a phased development. So of the 200 odd units that are being proposed, you take out of that equation 74 units. On a phased development, anywhere from 4 to 7 years, the impact on the schools will be, if anything, negligible. You have a significant amount of additional tax base that will go directly to the schools. The 74 units themselves, and all of you using your own common sense, all of that tax base will go to the schools to support the schools with virtually no impact. So you have 175, 180 odd units that the schools may be impacted by, and so collectively, the total income tax revenue, exclusive or including the 74 units, will go to support the schools, especially over a phased development. Again, regardless of what the emotions may turn out to be, there has to be data, not conjecture, not assumptions, in front of you tonight to make your decision based upon what the code requires you to make, not based upon what someone may feel, someone may think. And I come down to Loveland all the time. We all do. It's a wonderful community. Traffic today was horrible. I hope I parked in a legal parking space. I'm not sure that I did. But again, based on the traffic study, which our traffic engineer can testify to, the impact, especially on downtown, is not going to be that great. And any required improvements based upon that traffic impact study in conjunction with the traffic engineer will be made. So also one final note is if you look around this site, the site plan, you can see a few homes, what I would say a handful of homes that are directly adjacent to the east primarily, some to the south, outside of the Columba or St. Columban school area, but most of those homes are to the east. And you can see there are significant screening. There are huge amount of open space. And when Matt had indicated the Grail property, the owners of the Grail, when they came to Dries, this development had to be in conjunction with the 100 acres that would be sold to the parks. So of the 200 odd acres that the Grail has owned, about 160 acres of that will be set aside for continuing open space. So those directly affected to the east, with the natural screening, additional screening, the setbacks from the homes, and consistent with current zoning of medium density, the impact on them will be negligible. So I simply ask in closing that you base your decision upon the facts, not upon the emotion and what's in front of you today, and based upon the code and the analysis you will give to what we have presented today in making your decision. Thank you.
Do we have any questions? No. Okay.
Repeat the speakers.
Yes. Okay, so next we're going to call up, in order of the sign up, those that would like to address this committee. Now, I want to remind everybody again, be respectful of everybody's what their opinions are. Please do not speak out of turn. Comments under the breath, please just keep that to yourself. Again, we want to make this respectful and listen to everybody. It also makes it difficult for us to hear if other people are talking amongst themselves, for us to be able to hear who's at the microphone. So again, when you come up, please, there's a timer up here. It'll be green. Eva will start it, and then it'll be red. Please end it at that point, and we'll call the next person. So first on the list, we have Patrick Hill. Also, is there anyone out in the before you start? Is there anybody out in the hallway that like to? There's probably some spaces over here if you'd like to come in.
My name is Pat Hill. My relationship with the Grail goes back to 1946 when my mom came here from Brooklyn.
Sir, can you list your address, please?
537 East Loveland. That's where my handicapped son lives, who we advocate for. I live up the street.
It's just part of the record. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
that's fine. I also met my wife there at the Grail. She's a Grail member, used to be a Grail member, resigned over this land deal. My sewer, water, and septic business was invited by the Grail members to be located on their property. And we served their excavation, septic, sewer, drainage, snow plowing, driveway work for 26 years, free of charge in exchange for the space. In the late 90s, when their septic systems were failing, I pursued hooking them up to the public sewer. And if you notice in this utility assessment from Drees, there's no mention of sewer. Water, but not sewer. MSD told me that if I wanted to hook those buildings up, I had to come all the way down to the Moose Lodge and rebuild that sewer all the way up to Grellville if I wanted to hook the property up to the public sewer. No, that's my turn. Then called MSD, my friends at MSD, and said, where is Polk Run at? Does Polk Run have room for 209 homes? No availability study has been done. Before Loveland gets involved in providing utilities to this site, strongly recommend you guys understand where you stand with the sewer. The estimators I spoke to this week said redoing that sewer from Moose Lodge to Grellville is probably a $750,000 job. There's homework. Facts. This road, we do have traffic issues.
Please, everyone, keep your applause to yourself until he's let him speak.
The access road from Obanionville to 48 presents the city with an opportunity to relieve the traffic that uses Loveland as a pass-through, going from 275 to Warren County and parts east of Loveland. That road could be upsized without houses that back into the driveway or back out into the street and get lots of your cars out of downtown. My final point is the reason Drace has been chosen is because the Grail has chosen the highest bidder. They offered more money. My other developer, in my business, I know developers, lots of them. There's several plans, lower density, lower price. I don't blame Dries for wanting that number of homes. At $7.7 million, they need that many homes. Please don't let the Grail hold Loveland hostage and take their money elsewhere. There are other less dense plans that the Grail passed over because they want the highest dollar. They're a nonprofit. Who is Thea Nugent? She lives in Garden City, New York. That's who signed this application. You live in Loveland. She's not crowding her schools or her streets. Thank you.
Okay, next on the list is Catherine Lorenz. Please name and address as well, please.
My name is Catherine Lorenz, and I live at 1228 Retswood Drive. That is in the 45140 zip code, but it is in Miami Township. Retswood Drive does back up to the Grailville property that is being considered by Planning and Zoning for this SPD. I'm also a member of the Loveland City School District Board of Education. The board does recommend a member of the Planning and Zoning Commission, who is then appointed by the City of Loveland. At this time, that representative is Mr. Al Kressler. Having been contacted by some members of the public asking about the school district weighing in on this issue, I would state that I am not speaking this evening with a formal resolution or a directive from the board. Normally, our board expects that reports would be made to us based on what issues or developments are being considered, if there would be an impact on the district. We do not usually weigh in officially on matters that are the purview of the Planning and Zoning Commission or City Council. With representation on the commission, it is assumed that there's an understanding of how various developments could impact the school district, both as to numbers of new students and amounts of new tax dollars. It is possible, as has been stated some this evening, that developments could provide both tax dollars and numbers of students that would balance out some of the impact to the school district. Understanding that an additional possibility is that certain thresholds would then impact negatively the schools in the area of facilities. More students, some additional tax dollars, until the number of students would necessitate more classroom space and more property for school buildings. As I said, having been contacted by a few members of the public asking about the school board weighing in on this issue and asking how the development would impact the district, I am speaking this evening simply both as a private citizen and as an individual school board member to confirm that the commission be asked to consider any impact to the Loveland School District, along with their normal attention to the impact on the city of Loveland, and the accuracy and validity of the zoning change request. We do thank you for your consideration and your service.
Thank you. Next is Courtney Hauk.
And my foot went to sleep. My name's Courtney Hauk. I live at 497 North 2nd Street in Loveland, Ohio. I've heard all this. This is not the first time I've been in meetings concerning development. So where to start? You have heard all the arguments against the project already and the concerns of numerous residents. These briefly are, an SPD is not the right use for this project. The road up the hill is not wide enough and can't be made wider, allowing safe traffic. More traffic through Loveland, more fire equipment, more police, more water use, more school children, more city maintenance. 209 houses are too dense with 74 mobile home size lots. What about the historic home? It's a nice house. It is restorable. I understand it's not in the best condition. Somebody would be glad to have that. Loveland has lost more and more historic properties. It's almost to the point now where I don't call it historic Loveland anymore. I just call it Loveland. This property should be 1 acre lots as it was brought into the city. To allow more of an SPD is to set a precedence for future developers. There is still lots of additional land available beyond Loveland's borders. If all this is going to be developed as an SPD, we just might as well start another city and call it something else. We on the east side of Loveland are the ones impacted by the unbridled expansion of Loveland, with the denser housing being allowed. Loveland has 1 bridge in and 1 road out. Traffic at times is slow, and City Council has no interest in changing that. I guess it upsets the bar owners. Your appointed job as zoning people is to do what's necessary for the good of Loveland residents, and as per their wishes, not the wishes of the developers and City Council. If the residents want 50 acres per house, it's your job to get it done. Somehow, recently, council has decided that they know what is best, and their ideas come first. Developers second, bars third, and residents last. I keep using council here, even though we are before zoning. Why? Because zoning people are appointed by a liberal mayor, approved by a liberal city council to do these jobs. So I wonder if zoning is controlled by council. I'm not saying they are. I don't know. A case in point is the Blossom Hill development. Zoning and council ignored several hundred signatures, some governing ordinances, the city plan, the fact that it's outside the city proper, 2 plans by the developer, each more dense than the other, and council approved it anyway. What happens next? Thank you.
Next, we have Colleen Foray.
It's Fury.
Fury.
It's
Sorry.
St. Patrick's Day. Good evening. My name is Colleen Witchker Fury. I live at 112 Bears Creek Court. I come to you this evening with my concerns as a Loveland parent and the impact this residential community would have on our schools. As a mother of 4, I have kids in all of the buildings. The buildings and the classes are currently stretched to maximum capacity. Our elementary and kindergarten buildings have trailers. Our current student-teacher ratio is 29-1. It's way too high. And I know from experience from my kids, those classrooms reach up to 30 to 34 students. They've reconfigured storage rooms into classrooms. English teachers are in band rooms. They have minimized our libraries. We are doing what we can do, but it is not enough for our kids. We know that the Loveland City Schools is going through strategic planning to try to figure out the future of our buildings. This is not the time to bring in 200 more homes when we're trying to currently help the kids that we have now. Please, I urge you to deny this offer. Thank you for your time. My name is Stacy Egan. I'm at 6612 Branch Hill Guinea Pike. I'm sharing Colleen's time because I'm in a similar position where I have 4 children, 2 of which have gone through Loveland schools, K through 12. I've also worked for the school system. I can also tell you that everything Colleen said is very accurate, and there's no possible way our school system can support this. I appreciate that you brought facts with you tonight. We live here. We work here. We love this city. Our facts are better than yours. Your facts are working for you tonight. Our facts are what we know and live every day. So I appreciate you bringing this tonight, but it's not what Loveland needs. And I hope the council and the committee tonight will consider what is best for Loveland and what's best for our future. Thanks.
Next, we have Joy Needing Rucker.
My name is Joy Needing Rucker, Retswood Drive, neighbor to Grailville and Claremont County Parks. I am presenting on behalf of Thomas Lake of 1212 Retswood Drive. Back in the 1990s, when White Pillar's planning, zoning, and development phases were underway, a group of concerned citizens faced issues like today. Original plans for development were presented to citizens for review and comment. But as time moved on, the plans were revised and not consistent with citizens' wishes. A concerted effort by a focus group of around 20 people knocked on the doors of neighbors, rallying them to the bait and switch taking place. After collecting enough signatures for a referendum, numerous legal battles in court, and a final victory at the ballot box, the citizens of Loveland and bordering areas were victorious. The Drees development seems to be following the same playbook. That is, present a plan that gets people on board, change it to something that maximizes gains for some but not the local citizens. The increase in residential density from what was originally proposed presents numerous problems. 1. With all the residential building that has taken place in recent years between Paxton and Oakland, water runoff seems to have increased to the point that flooding of residential yards is becoming more common. How has the new higher density plan, increase in roof areas and paved roads, addressed water runoff and retention time? 2. Traffic in the morning and late afternoon is often a problem on the winding, hilly approach roads due to commuters and school pickup and drop-off traffic. How is the traffic congestion caused by the addition of a couple hundred homes going to contribute to the situation? The traffic study that you cited was done in 2021. You said it was done a year ago. Many people were working from home at that time, so perhaps not accurate. How long will the designated Claremont County Parks area be safe from development before the park area is rezoned for residential or worse mixed use? Noise, lights, litter, congestion, and runoff will follow. Everyone welcomes young children into the area, school-age children into the area, but has the developer identified the cost associated with the increasing school building infrastructure? Who pays for this? The developer, the new residents, or the taxpayer? Please consider in detail the ramifications of proceeding with half-acre lots. Once they are built without abating these issues, the after-the-fact remediation costs will be quite costly for everyone except the developer. Veronica Brannon, Loveland resident. The tipping point. Our quality of life is at stake. The city of Loveland has been my home for 15 years. I have worked here for all of those years, and my daughter graduated from Loveland High School in 2020. I have seen the quality of life decrease for myself, residents, and visitors of Loveland, and I am concerned. Our city of Loveland leaders have allowed special zoning and rampant development that has led to a decrease in our quality of life, physical health, family, education, safety, and the environment. Think about the quality of life and how the decisions at hand will impact the city we call home. Do we want more traffic congestion? Do we want to force our already full school system to take on more students and strain the ones we already have? Do we want our police and fire departments to be responsible for the safety of hundreds of new residents, and will they be able to respond adequately? Do we want to reduce our water quality? Do we want more noise, light pollution? Are we going to allow more green space to get gobbled up by development? We live in a city that already has high taxes. I expect more from our leaders who work for us, the people of Loveland. It is time for the city to reverse the course that our city leaders are forcing on this gem of a city and its people. To quote my own 8 and 10-year-old children, building houses at Grailville will cause pollution to our earth, animals to be forced from their habitat, loss of trees, and organic farmland to be destroyed. Our children will bear the burden of the decisions made today. The city of Loveland, on behalf of the citizens of Loveland, should consider the wise words of the next generation.
Thank you. Next, we have Jeff Mullins.
Thanks for the opportunity to talk tonight. Appreciate it. I live at 361 East Loveland Avenue. I've been a homeowner in Loveland in the downtown area for 18 years now. And in that time, I've seen the town change quite a bit. My greatest fear today is that we're going to love Loveland to death. I don't think that there's any debate that the two biggest issues are downtown congestion and school overcrowding. I think we can all agree on that. These are long-term issues that require a long-term fix. This SPD application today is asking for an over 100% increase in the density that is currently allotted for that land. And this development is just a stone's throw away from downtown, so that's going to worsen the two problems that we're dealing with: school overcrowding and the traffic congestion. Unless and until those two glaring problems are addressed with a long-term solution, this committee has no right to approve this application. It is simply not going to work. It's not a good fit for the community at this time. It should be a unanimous no from all the members of this committee. But instead of spending all my time talking about traffic and schools, I wanted to ask you a question, and that is, why did the writers of the city charter who wrote the annexation laws, why did they write in a low density requirement? Why did they have the foresight to see that when the annexations come in, they should be low density? Why did they do that? I think the answer is they knew that high density would lead to all these problems that we're talking about tonight. They also saw what happened in, they don't want to be the city of Cincinnati. We don't live in Cincinnati, we live in Loveland. They don't want the negative consequences that come with that. I'm asking the commission to hold true tonight to the annexation laws that were written by those members who had that foresight. Only in extraordinary situations should this commission scrap our existing laws. A 209-home cookie-cutter development, a stone's throw away from downtown, this certainly does not fit the bill. In negotiations, it's often a common tactic for one party to ask for the moon on the front end. And then after some back and forth, they settle for what they wanted all along. In this case, Dries comes in asking for this high density or medium density. And maybe all along, all they're really looking for is a little bit somewhere in between. That too would be bad. I'm asking the commission to have the wisdom to see through this. Let's not play this game. Let's not waste everyone's time. I'm asking the commission to stick to our existing low density zoning as they are written. The commission should not sacrifice our community's quality of life for the wish list of this developer. Tell Dries to take it or leave it. If they want to build here, they must abide by our existing laws. These laws are written with wisdom and foresight. They were written with low density for a reason. Please deny this SPD application. Thanks.
Next we have Rick, and I apologize, your last name's A.A. Oh, that's you. Okay. And Matt, we've already heard from Tom Scoobanner. Yes.
My name's Tom Scovaner. I live at 155 Overlook Drive. The staff analysis makes a number of flawed conclusions and some conflicting information in their recommendation that this should go forward. And I want to point out some of those things. To quote the staff analysis, the proposed project will occupy 109 acres of the site, but we already know that it's actually 111 acres, approximately. So, small difference, but it goes back to, can we rely upon the staff analysis? The staff analysis states existing ponds will be protected, reducing the need for additional clearing and grading. That would be accomplished better by building fewer homes. Where these homes are built, the 209 homes plus the amenities that they're talking about, that's all going to be clear cut, gentlemen. You know that. So if you build half that number of homes or less than half that number of homes, because we already know that the 111 acres will not support 111 1-acre sites as it's currently zoned. You have to have roads. There's ponds. So we're going to talk about something less than 111 homes as existing as opposed to 209 homes. And those 209 homes, if you look at the topographical map that they provided, they're up against each other. All that's going to be clear cut. All those trees are going to go. Now, they talk about the perimeters and how this is going to protect those perimeters. I'll get to that in a little bit. Looking further at the staff analysis, it says lot sizes range between a minimum of 1,755 to a maximum of 3,900 feet. That's on page 4. So according to that part of the analysis, the proposed lots will be between 4 and 9% of the size of the current zoning, 43,000 square feet. But where did those numbers come from? Because when you look at Dries's calculations, and quite honestly, I take Dries's over the staff analysis at this point. They talk about the minimum lot size of 6,760 feet, or 8,060 feet, or 11,960 feet. So basically 15 to 27% of what the current zoning allows. So staff, I don't even know where they got those numbers. It's not explained. When I was in grade school, I was always taught with math especially, you must show your work so that the teacher, or in this case, the evaluator of the staff analysis, could see how you came to that conclusion and understand how you came to that conclusion. And did you, in doing your work, really understand what you were talking about? You don't have anything like that in this staff analysis. You just have raw figures that came out of the clear blue sky. Nobody in this group would rely upon those figures, and nor should you. So the staff recommendation that this should go forward is based upon, well, garbage input, quite honestly. Staff analysis further approximates 37 acres of open space will be retained by this plan. Once again, the staff doesn't explain how that calculation, but let's, for brevity's sake, let's accept that figure. Looking at the topography of this land, and you have a topographical map, the vast majority of that open space is sharply sloped, or as Dries indicates in their document, the existing conditions are steeper slopes in the southwest of the site and a ravine in the northwest of the site. Basically, undevelopable land. That's going to be open land no matter what. They're not going to put houses in those areas, even if you try to go with the current zoning of low density. And then the staff says, developer proposes to repurpose pieces of existing structures where appropriate. But Dries freely admits on page 18, all current structures, will be removed. Dries states it's working with the seller to attempt to repurpose pieces and parts. What does that mean? We're asked to look at facts. What are the facts behind that statement? There are none. Now, I freely admit I'm not an engineer and architect, but I'm rather extensively trained and experienced in topographical analysis for roads and site planning, because for 32 years I was a U.S. Army cavalry officer, and that's what I did. I would do route reconnaissance. I would plan roads. I would see where units could go. I would see where columns could go. I would see where we could build maintenance facilities. I would find where we could build hospital facilities. So I have a pretty good understanding of topography and how you build things and where you can build things. The open spaces on this parcel are undevelopable. So what Dries is proposing in this SPD, you can accomplish, and more so, by leaving it as current zoning at 1 acre. The ultimate question before this committee is to make a recommendation to the City Council. Please recommend no.
Before we get to the next speaker, I just want to make a point, just to Mr. Scovaner's point that the staff is making a recommendation to accept the application. In the memo, the recommendation portion reads that the Planning and Zoning Commission, 1, determine if the proposed SPD application is acceptable, and if so, 2, recommend the establishment of the SPD to City Council. So staff is making no recommendation one way or the other as it relates to this application. Just to make a clarifying point there.
Okay, I'm assuming you're Sharon.
I am. I'm Sharon Scovaner. I live at 155 Overlook Drive, and I'm here tonight to talk about traffic. Teresa decided to do a traffic study because everyone knows that traffic is the #1 problem in Loveland. Traffic counts were conducted on a Wednesday, February 24th, 2021. Wednesday is certainly not the busiest day in Loveland. A Friday might have been a more appropriate day to do a count. Additionally, last year in February, we were still at the height of COVID. The general population was not yet vaccinated. Sporting and entertainment events were closed. Masking and 6-foot social distancing was required. And all but a few of the counties in Ohio were in a level 1 public health emergency, including all the surrounding counties. Loveland schools allowed students to learn remotely, and restaurants, if open, were limited to 25% capacity. It should also be noted that 2 new developments are also going in that play into the intersection of West Loveland and 48. 25 townhomes and 30 single-family homes, and these were not included at all in the traffic study. The study only analyzed the traffic counts during 2 one-hour periods, 7:15 to 8:15 a.m. and 4:45 to 5:45 p.m. To get a true picture of the traffic in Loveland, we need to analyze more than 2 hours. Loveland draws people at all different times of the day, as well as on the weekend, especially in warm weather months. The traffic counts used in this study do not accurately reflect current conditions, nor are they extensive enough to understand the whole problem and should be discounted. There is, however, some information in the study that we can draw from. Even with reduced traffic because of COVID, the study shows that there will be an additional 2,124 primary new trips per weekday. 2,124 new trips per day, according to their study. Pass-by trips were not even included in the study, but will result in even more additional traffic. The study shows that a greater percent, 45 versus 30%, of traffic will use the Obanionville Road entrance, leading straight into downtown Loveland. Everyone knows that the traffic in downtown Loveland is already at a breaking point. With the bike trail crossing, school buses having to stop at railroad crossings, the backups we have that we're already experiencing are already diminishing the quality of life for many residents in part of Claremont and all of Warren County, which is where I live. Neither of these issues are even considered in the study. Oftentimes, when I leave my house and travel south on 48 towards downtown Loveland, the traffic is already backed up to Lyons Road because of the congestion in downtown Loveland. Since not all the voices could be here tonight due to the fact that this is a holiday and also the beginning of the NCAA basketball tournament, I felt it prudent to share a small sample of quotes on social media from the community about this proposed development. Number one, I live on Obanionville Road, and this makes me sick. Why is Loveland allowing this to happen is ridiculous. Why not make it a park with trails and tons of green space for everyone to enjoy? Loveland does not need this. It's bad enough that historic Loveland has been reduced to a restaurant and alcohol strip. This just kills the quaint community with rich roots and history even more. This isn't progress. This is such a step back. What a sellout, Loveland. Number two, jokingly, it's just a few extra 100 cars trying to navigate our 2-lane roads and busy crosswalks. No big deal. 3, unbelievable. We left Loveland as a result of a need to move for a new job, always with the thought we would move back. God-awful monstrosity downtown was bad enough. Now this? Is there any sort of self-reflection going on in the leadership of Loveland? 4, adding more traffic to an already overcrowded streets in downtown Loveland. We are at a breaking point. We are already breaking at the seams. This is about the dumbest proposition taken. Not more damn housing. Yes, sure, we need more traffic on our roads. We are already getting more and more congestion. This is ridiculous. This is about one simple thing, the impact on our near overcapacity infrastructure, period. Nothing else, just that. Those making these decisions are ignoring these issues. They just want to build something to bring in more taxes. Problem is, that has been the mantra for years, and the traffic continues to get worse. Figure out a traffic pattern that actually works, then come back and talk about adding more cars and people. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave Stanton?
Dave Stanton, 208 Century Hill Drive. I know many people in this community think I'm against development. I'm not against development. I'm against the decisions being made on new developments without the data to understand the impact on infrastructure, specifically traffic and schools, and the effect on all the taxpayers of Loveland. This development request would be the third development proposal placed in front of this commission for Warren and Claremont counties in the last 2 years. Planning and zoning needs to take the steps to slow down before decisions made have a detrimental, irreversible impact on the east side of Loveland. The 2 developments under construction will have a total of 55 homes. This SPD proposal is for 209 homes. This would be a total of 264 new homes on the east side of Loveland, which will have a negative impact on traffic and the schools in getting through downtown Loveland. This SPD needs to be adjusted to the current zoning of low density of 1 home per acre, estimated to be probably in 85, 90 homes and not 209. It was brought up by Dries around let's deal with the facts. The traffic study that was provided is fundamentally flawed. The traffic study was conducted on February 24th, 2021, and when the majority of people were working from home and school buses were not being used, midway through the pandemic. The study that was provided, and facts, was provided showed 874 vehicles in the intersection of Route 48 and Loveland Avenue in the AM rush hour, and 1,122 vehicles at this same intersection in the PM rush hour. This traffic count does not account for the 55 new homes in Warren County. Plus, the study shows a negative 19% in traffic flow reduction during the pandemic. In applying the reduction back into the traffic study for post-pandemic adjustments, you're looking at 1,079 vehicles in the AM and 1,385 vehicles in the PM rush hour at the same intersection, for a total of 2,464 cars daily, total vehicles. This does not include the proposed SPD for 209 homes with additional traffic. Let's take a moment to consider traffic impact at another Dries development close to Loveland with over 200 homes in Elliott Farms. This new development has caused traffic congestion issues at the intersection of Columbia Road and Davis Road. This community has complained very loudly to Deerfield Township and to Warren County about the traffic issues and congestion. Deerfield Township and Warren County are stepping forward to construct a roundabout at that intersection at an estimated cost of $2.2 million. Has Loveland done any traffic studies independently to understand the impact on development decision and with ideas and estimated costs to resolve? With this type of development, what is the return on the investment on this SPD with 209 homes to the citizens of Loveland? I'm asking you to slow down, request data and studies from the city so that you can make an informed decision. I would be very disappointed if you approve this SPD this evening without taking the time to ask questions and gather more information before deciding. Thank you.
Next is Lauren Enda. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Lauren Enda, 5073 Bristol Court. The proposed development in Grailville will impact Loveland in multiple ways, and there are many reasons to step back and look at the problem before diving in head first. Look before you leap. And I know that Sharon and Dave just talked about it, but the traffic study included in the packet was conducted in February of 2021, in the middle of winter, in the middle of a pandemic, while severe COVID restrictions were still in effect. Come on. Many people were working from home and many children were still being homeschooled. In addition, many people were not traveling at all. The data obtained during this study is suspect as the numbers are not reflective of normal non-pandemic traffic levels. Well, or even spring or summer weather. COVID was not taken into account during the study, and COVID affected everything in February of last year. This traffic study should be disregarded completely. Number two, if the special planning district is approved, Loveland is turning over decision-making for our city to a group of developers and strangers. They will not be impacted by the increased traffic, cost of developing roads, sewer, and water to the property, impact to schools, etc. They will take their money and leave the residents, and they will take their money and leave, and residents will be stuck with the consequences. Number three, the specific development of Grailville has not ever been included in any master plan, including the current one. Number four, what would be the financial gain to the city and the residents? Will development at Grailville be a net gain or a net loss to the city? Who knows? Remember, with so many more houses, we will either need higher taxes to pay for more police and fire, or we all will need to settle for greatly reduced services from those two entities. Which will happen? Again, who knows? Question mark. Number five, Loveland should team with Grailville owners to invite multiple suggestions and our developers with new and innovative ideas for that unique and precious land. Grailville could be turned into something exceptional and rare instead of cookie-cutter homes with absolutely nothing special about them. Loveland is better than that. We need to have confidence in Loveland's brand as a unique town. Let's hang on to what makes us different. Several residents have spoken before council with strong, well thought out suggestions about how to better use that property. Let's listen to these imaginative residents like these and at least give their ideas some thought. Finally, why are we even considering a plan that clearly causes so much anger and division in Loveland? I hope that residents do, at the end of the day, overcome posturing and threats by developers' attorneys. Thank you.
Next, we have Dan Walker. Dan, I think. Last name's Walker. No? Okay. Kevin Kiley. Did I pronounce your name right? Okay.
My name is Kevin Kiley, 1221 Rutchwood Drive. And I just want to remind the council here of what is printed in their Loveland Comprehensive Plan dated October 2021. One of the bullet points in there is identify undeveloped land to preserve for recreational development or open space. And the other bullet point is identify missing recreational needs within the community and establish a plan to fill those voids over time as feasible. This may include the city considering a senior center, recreation center, and or municipal pool. It goes on to say that Loveland is almost completely developed, so it is especially crucial to protect and preserve these assets within the city. So your own charter would like to preserve spaces such as what you just annexed into Loveland. Can we do better than another subdivision? It's a beautiful picture. What they don't show you is the rooftops, and the houses are 5 foot next to each other. So, some alternate ideas that I'm sure everyone has already thought about. Valley View Foundation Milford saved 190 acres in Milford and affectionately called Milford's Big Backyard now. They use it for outdoor education, community gardens, and walking trails. They have last year they grew over 5,000 pounds of food and gave it back to the community. And it is a place to learn and to be outdoors. And it's a gem that Milford has in their crown now. Turner Farms in Indian Hill is another great use for something like this, where it is a working farm that grows organic vegetables and raises cattle. Your charter says a community center. Well, when we moved to Loveland from Indianapolis, this is the second time we've lived in Loveland, there was no pool to go to. There was no recreational center that Loveland, that Loveland operates. So that would be a wonderful thing to have. So anyway, it also helps join the two sides of Loveland. As stated in your plan, is let's have a west side and an east side and make this feel like a cohesive city. There's your chance. So anyway, thank you very much for your time.
Susan Raftery.
Hello, Susan Raftery and my husband Tom. We're at 10719 Hampton Glen Lane. Tom and I and our family, we've lived in and been a part of the Loveland community for 30 years. During those 30 years, we've watched the Loveland community grow into a beautiful, vibrant, and thriving community. The annexation of the Grailville property is a wonderful gift to the Loveland residents and an opportunity to further enhance the uniqueness of this community. Not by allowing 200 or more homes, but by keeping it low density and maintaining some of the green space of this beautiful property. While green space has environmental and public health benefits, it also has monetary benefits as well. A study by the Carolina Planning Board shows that green space increases the value of properties around it. Another study by the Urban Affairs Board shows that not only do the lots in conservation subdivisions carry a premium, but they also sell faster. These enhanced property values, not only on the Grailville property, but the surrounding neighborhoods as well, mean higher taxable land values and larger tax base for the cities. So please look at the Grailville property through the lens of quality versus quantity. Keep it zoned low density and be good stewards of this beautiful piece of land. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob Rutter.
Good evening. I'm Bob Rutter. I live at 6254 Hunterwood Lane in Loveland, Miami Township. And I have to say that I think that this is an amazing event because I've been here before representing different issues. And I think it's the vitality of our community that brings citizens to talk in a personal way with their elected officials and appointed officials to resolve issues. So I come as a friend. I've been here before as an advocate, as an adversary. And so my perspective is a little bit different. I've been here for 30 years. I'm a real estate agent. So I see this in a little bit different context, but I'm also a neighbor. So as a neighbor, I would say I'm going to be impacted by traffic concerns. The gentleman that talked about sanitary, running sewer up to a big development like this, that's a big deal. And somebody is going to have to pay that bill. And I don't know if the city of Loveland has really talked about that and looked at what the numbers are involved and if that's even doable, because there's been a long history in the Metropolitan Sewer District and going back and forth about their ability to support and keep their systems current to support population growth. But for Dries, as a real estate agent, there is a serious deficit in available homes for people to move into right now. We have a seizure essentially in our real estate market because people want to move. They want to move up, they want to move down or laterally, but there's nowhere to go. And so we have the stagnation in our market. And Dries, we have two people. Well, really we have four groups involved. We have a seller, which is not present, the Grail. And I worked with the Grail for years, pro bono, when they would call on me and ask me to do this and that. And believe me, there have been a number of proposals that they looked at to develop internally. But they're commanding forces up in Boston or somewhere, and they're the seller. And then you have a buyer. And, somebody, it's an interaction between these two groups, and they have to make a profit. And by gosh, we want to have builders that make a profit, because if they don't make a profit, they're not in business. And you're not moving up or down or sideways if you don't have people like Dries. So I commend you for that. But unfortunately, you're carrying a lightning rod for a community that has internal problems and have had them for years. This traffic issue didn't come up overnight. The school system didn't just suddenly appear. Did we forget that we just fired our superintendent and the other leadership because of the way that they misused their authority and a great opportunity to enhance our school system? I mean, and I have two teachers in the family, so no slings and arrow. I'm a supporter of the school system. But there's a lot of internal problems that the city has never wrestled with. And here comes Grailville and Dries trying to reach an agreement between two parties managed by zoning rules and regulations and your approval. And then all of the community that is coming to grips with all these issues that occur in Loveland. And really, you're inheriting all of Loveland's problems, and they really shouldn't fall on your shoulders. You're just trying to do business, and we want them to do business. As a real estate agent, I also want you to do business. But there are a lot of issues to be looked at. I think you have a big, I think the people speaking to you have to be heard. I think the issues of the sewer, the traffic is an issue that long has existed in this community and needs to be fixed, needs to be addressed by the city of Loveland. Why aren't we correcting these problems? And the schools, that's a whole different thing. Why they made bad decisions and we had to get rid of superintendents. Now we're left with the vestiges of problems that continue to grow. And I think there are solutions out there. I hope you will help guide the community in resolving some of those. The traffic study is a glaring problem. The sewer system's a glaring problem. You're not going to fix, I don't care who comes in that property. Someone is going to buy Grailville, and they're going to develop it. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next, Robert Boyle.
Hi, you said Robert Bowl, correct?
A Bold, yes.
That's me. I'm at 269 Glen Lake Road. My main concern is I live way on the west end of Loveland, and traffic is not my major concern. I end up going further west when I leave home. But taxes and the schools are my concern. I sent my children to this school. My grandkids are going to the schools here. And if you bring in this development at the special level, not just the RLD, but at a special proposed level, then I'm not sure that we have adequate facilities to take care of them. I don't know if it's been investigated, but if a development with 200 homes brings even 100 more children, you need 4 more classrooms to keep an average of 24 students per teacher. And we know that Loveland already denied the school board their last levy proposal, which would have put a school in Grailville, actually. But they said too much traffic. The voters, too much traffic and too expensive. And I don't know how you feel about it, but I don't want to see classrooms go to 32 students per classroom, for example. And then when it comes to infrastructure, there will have to be improvements to the infrastructure if they put in 200 homes in that area. That would be sewers, police, ambulance service, firefighters, and I think at best it may be a wash, but it could be a negative for Loveland. So when I see there's 3 parties involved in this, there's the Grailville, which we have no obligation to make whole. We are not responsible for whether they make money on this proposition or not. There's Dries, and I'm not opposed to development, but let's do it at the RLD level. And at that level, I think things could be manageable. And since we've got it, somebody will want it if they just advance this negotiation a little bit further, and it will pay for itself, but at a much lower density. There won't be the traffic congestion that I would predict is going to happen based on the facts I've heard here today. So, you make up your mind, but I don't think Loveland really wants the negatives that are associated with this project. Keep it at the RLD level. Thank you.
Stephen Harris.
Hi. I live at 550 East Loveland, so I'm right up there in that square next door. And actually, I didn't realize I was signing up to talk, so I just came to watch and listen. But since I'm called, we've had a lot of great things said by neighbors, and I haven't been here that long, maybe seven years. I can tell you that, probably 15 years ago, we looked at coming to Loveland and we never could make it happen. And, it's not the same Loveland it was then. It's just grown and got congested and everything else. And I drive down that street every day and I deal with the traffic. And certainly during COVID, it was like no traffic. I mean, I still went to work, but traffic is a problem. We've already noticed that or spoken about that. Sewage. And I also say, just stormwater drainage down East Loveland is terrible. And I maybe that's addressed in their plans. But I can't imagine any more water filling my yard as I already have and just going down the hill, just ripping everyone's yards up. But the main thing I thought of actually during this, when people were talking, I think he said 4 to 7 year build out. Does it sound right? I'm imagining, and not just from my own perspective of living next door, but 4 to 7 years of construction traffic added and tearing up our streets even more and mud in the streets and nails, whatever, I know what goes on in construction, and I just can't imagine that many houses, how much construction traffic that would also be. So thank you.
Elizabeth, is it Robinson? Yep.
Good evening. I live almost next door to Grailville at 531 East Loveland, and I'm also a Grail member, so I do have some ownership in the Grailville property. However, I am not in favor of this change in zoning. And I'd like to start with a prayer. We thank you, Creator God, for the goodly heritage you offer us, from green downland to the deep and beautiful Little Miami, and for the abundant world we share with your creation. Keep us so mindful of its needs and those of all with whom we share, that open to your spirit we may discern and practice all that makes for its well-being. Amen. And I have a question. If putting 209 new homes on this beautiful jewel of green that is adjacent to Loveland, or in Loveland at this point, does that keep us mindful of all the citizens of Loveland? Does this discern and practice for the well-being of future generations of this town? I have lived in Loveland all my life, 65 years. I remember when the old part of Loveland was decrepit and was not valued. Someone had the vision, or someones, of the bike trail and co-adjacent Little Miami River Park and Conservancy. This vision was met with resistance, but the vision persisted. Looked to a better future and flowered. It was good for our community, protected the beauty we all enjoyed and could use. And it did bring many visitors and businesses to Old Loveland. Changing our density, our zoning to high density or medium density adds to congestion and strain on Loveland services. And everyone here tonight has basically said that. It is not a vision for the future that is mindful of the power of beauty and its force in our lives, or of green space and the highest good of all the citizens of our town. Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth Murphy?
My name is Elizabeth Murphy. I live at 10590 Fallis Road. My husband and I have lived here for over 30 years. And I just want to say I'm in sympathy with everything that I've heard tonight. There is a lot of caring, intelligent people here, as well as yourselves. I think, other than saying just simply, please keep the low density zoning that this property is currently at, is a wiser choice. I'd ask you to recognize the fact that we live in a country where we have a government of citizens. That's who you are. You live here too. And I know that I feel, when I look at you, I think, you know, what do they feel? You know, would they be on this side of the podium saying, please, please conserve a little bit of the kind of ambiance that Loveland has been known for? To suddenly pack so many houses in is too big a transition, too fast. Eventually something will happen on that property, but let's keep it a lighter something. And listen to the citizens. I'm sympathetic with the business people who want to do this development. I'm sure they've worked hard on their plan. But ultimately, you as fellow residents really need to weigh the feelings and the needs of all of us who live here, including yourselves. Thank you.
Audrey Boyce-Strawn?
Hi.
Hi.
Audrey Boydson. I live at 136 Bears Creek.
First of all, I just want to say thank you. This is just amazing to hear from all of you here. We've only been in Loveland for about 9 months, but one of the reasons we moved here is so that I could run on the bike trail every day. Yes, there's a lot of issues with traffic, but I want us to think for a moment of all of the people who are active here in Loveland. There's a lot of people that, if you're like me, it's kind of sketchy if you want to walk or run or bike or anything on East Loveland right now to get down to the trail. My other concern is the trail. Like all of these, if we have over 200 more houses that are going to be going through downtown Loveland, just think of what that's going to do to the active community and everybody that's on that bike trail. So I just wanted to really at least share my concerns for those of us who are active, which if I asked you to raise your hand, would probably be most of you in the room that have spent time, quality time on this bike trail and in this area. So that's just one of the things that I would like you to consider. Thank you.
And I apologize. Is it Branda Groshin? I cannot read the first.
I didn't know I was speaking, but I would be happy to. Someone sign us up. I don't know. We will be happy to speak. We are the Greshens, Brenda and Rob. We live at 362 East Loveland Avenue. And I'm trying to decide what route I want to start with first. But I'm going to start with, we were part of the people, many people, that did give a proposal to the Grail. And this makes me so upset. Can we take this picture down for a moment, please? Do you guys have the possibility to take this picture down?
I don't. No.
How is it up there? Who has it up there? Someone has it up there.
I wish we would have prepared a slide.
That's what we're here to talk
our
about.
Side as
Well, let me just, you get our point. We're having these conversations and they get the opportunity to have this picture still up here.
That's what we're here for.
I understand.
I thought we were here for the community of Loveland, not for Greece. And I love a business. I ran a business for 20 years, and it helped companies recycle and reuse, which is the greater good for others, which is great.
So,
I appreciate Dries.
We're super upset.
I'm sorry.
So.
I didn't know we were coming up here, but I guess I'm a little challenged by you make a deal and you double it, and that bothers me a little bit.
We're not making a deal.
I'm sorry.
We're discussing a
Let me go back a little bit, or let us go back a little bit. But there were many people companies and people in the community who presented the Grail with all of the same requirements that I'm sure Dries were asked to present. And some people offered a single family home with a farm. Some people offered that in conjunction with a nonprofit for people with traumatic brain injuries, and they would continue farming there and rehabbing that house. And it's just when we listened to the presentation tonight, it was disturbing. It was just very disturbing. Again, we did not know we were going to be put on the podium tonight, so we're not very prepared. I appreciate you guys. We appreciate you guys. We too have lived in Loveland for a long, long time, and the growth down here has been amazing. It's so our family visit from out of town, and they're like, "Oh my word, we feel like we are on vacation. Like this is we feel like we're in California, or we feel you're doing an amazing job." We have seen a lot of things tonight that just seem unfair. And not on the up and up, and we're not prepared, but I do want to say thank you to you guys. I say thank you to all the people here tonight. You have, just shown what we love about Loveland.
Me too. I'm sorry, I'm not prepared either, but bottom line is Loveland is a wonderful city. And I get what's going on. I just want to make sure you guys look at all the facts, understand. And I believe your goal is the community of Loveland. And I'm hoping you're hearing the community of Loveland tonight.
speak out and say, please take a better look at what's going on. And I know this is not the final night for this, which I get that, but it's the start of this. And I just think Loveland is a wonderful place, and I hope it continues to be what it is. And adding 200 houses, I'm not sure if that's the best thing for our future. Simple as that. Simple.
And while I'm thinking about it, I did take a couple of notes. But going back to the Grail, I mean, someone made an amazing point tonight. The seller is not here, and we reached out to a Grail member yesterday, and maybe they're not that in tune to things, but they had no idea that this was going on. We gave them some facts, and they were astounded. So I just don't know how we've gotten here. When they had people present to them, they were very against development at that time. Maybe things have changed. I know money talks, but it's just shocking. And we welcome, another opportunity to be more prepared and give some more facts. But thank you to all.
Thank you. Okay, that's all we have signed up for to talk. So we will leave. We need a motion to end the public hearing. Yes.
No. Not your call. Yeah. Everybody's here. Gets a chance.
Yeah, that's fine. And please that we're listening for information. This is we're not comment. This is information. Whether you agree or disagree, that's your own opinion, but we have to listen to what he has to say. Okay, please.
Yeah, my name is Jamal Adami. I'm with SH Engineering. I completed the traffic study for the project. I just want to clarify a couple of things that were indicated. First of all, we did adjusted the traffic volumes for COVID. So they were adjusted based on the reduction that was during that period. And second thing, we completed the counts for 4 hours in the morning and 4 hours in the afternoon peak. And those volumes were used to establish the peaks during morning and afternoon. And that's what they see in the report. Those are the hours that were analyzed. So I just want to clarify that. It's not just what we did counts for 1 hour. So
I have a follow-up question. Did your study take into account the other SPDs that have been approved?
No.
If I'm not mistaken, you were the traffic engineer for one of those. Is that correct?
I'm sorry?
If I'm not mistaken, you were also the traffic engineer for one of those other SPDs.
Not that I'm aware. Which one you're talking about? I'm not doing any other in Loveland right now. Or
was he the traffic engineer, Mr. Attorney, for the Red Blossom?
Oh, that only has like.
So you didn't take that into account.
No, that was.
But you knew that was part of the traffic study.
I was involved in the traffic analysis. That was only like under 10 trips for that.
Just tried to point out.
No, I didn't include those trips. You're right. So.
I have a question as well.
I'm sorry. Is this should we close the public hearing since we're okay?
Dries has an opportunity to present too, and they can ask them questions just as they did a couple residents.
You don't have to wait till new business.
No,
Okay.
they can go.
All right.
So just curious, living on East Loveland Avenue, I know that the rush hour is a problem from a traffic standpoint. But one of the things where it can really be amplified is events and nice weekends. So were weekend, and the sort of recreational activity taken into account?
No, this analysis was done on a typical weekday, basically. We normally just analyze AM and PM. If somebody requests that we need to go beyond that, we will cover that. But
another question around that. Again, I think the intersections that were studied in the downtown area were the Loveland Avenue and 48 down at the corner, as well as the I Oakland and Broadway and Oakland, those two intersections. Why didn't you also take into account Carl Brown Way and Loveland Avenue? Because a lot of the traffic is sort of stopped by the sort of, I don't know what you call it, the stop and go nature of the bike trail and that light at Carl Brown. In addition, the intersection at 5 Points in Broadway, where the traffic is really kind of bottlenecked. I'm not a traffic engineer, so I'm not sure why you wouldn't try to get 2 points of reference to try to measure the traffic as opposed to just the closest intersection.
Let me explain you what we typically do in traffic study. When we are going to start any traffic study, we normally contact the reviewing agency, which would be Loveland in this case. And it was done by us, but they said the traffic study is not required. So we had to make some judgment on our own. You may be right that we should have been included, but typically when we get engaged with the reviewing agency, then they establish a lot of things, and then we include those in the. But this was in this case we had to make our own judgment, which may or may not have included some additional intersections. So that's possible.
Would that be possible? Would that have yielded more robust data if you added another intersection? Again,
we could have done that. Yes, so that obviously is always added cost for doing any additional work, but it could be done. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have a couple questions.
Anything else?
No. I have a couple questions. You said the counts were adjusted for COVID. What was the adjustment?
Okay. State has developed a model during that period, and they were providing adjustment factors for a lot of regions in Ohio, and they were publishing it every week. So we just used that information. That was the best information available at that point, and that was used to adjust the counts, bump up the count using those factors.
Okay. And the intersections that were studied, that was agreed to with the city engineer, or that was just proposed by you? And
no, after our initial contact, they indicated that the traffic study is not required. So I don't remember if we engaged with them at all after that.
Intersections, please.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay. No other questions for you.
Okay, thanks.
I'd like to make a motion to move out of the public hearing.
Second.
Mr. Cady?
Yes.
Mr. Kressler?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
5-0, motion carries.
The next order of business is open forum. We do not have anyone signed up for open forum, so we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the new business, which is discussion on the special planning district application for Dries Homes. So, anybody have any points, discussions?
Would you care to comment on why land is brought in as low density?
Yeah, and it's been said a couple times tonight, but just for the benefit of everyone there, it's automatic in our code here in Loveland that all property that's annexed in immediately starts with residential low density. I think it was also pointed out, but I think it's worth reiterating that you don't have to change the zoning, but this body can change the zoning, and I think that's what Dries is asking you to do. They're asking you to put the special planning district in that would alter that RLD. But it is automatic under law that is where it starts.
Dave, is this in the city school limits? Meaning
Yes.
these? Okay. Yes.
Dave, can you comment on the sanitary sewer? And is sewer available at the property, or is it being extended to this property?
I believe the sewer capacity would be accessed along State Route 48. Emmett, we are primarily involved with the water and stormwater reviews. The sanitary sewer review is done by MSD. We focus mostly on the water capacity, our ability to water it, our ability to provide fire service to it, and our ability to monitor. We do all the stormwater. Sanitary sewer goes through MSD.
So sanitary sewer is available at the site. It's not being extended to this property.
It's on 48. Where it would have to be extended would be between MSD and that. I believe there is a main that runs along State Route 48 that comes out of the White Pillars development and works its way down that way. Don't know the exact location or which home it comes through an easement, but I believe that is the main. There is a main there along that location.
I give you background on that. We've had this has come up before in several other projects. The reason the property they want and got it incorporated into Loveland is when the sewage plant was built, Loveland was designated to have so many taps. We have a capacity that is dedicated to Loveland. We have capacity. The county does not. And that's why all the areas adjacent to Loveland always want to move into Loveland, because we have the ability to give them sewers where if they try to develop on a county basis, they cannot do it other than having,
Sewer or water?
Sewer. Yeah. So the key is that MSD does have the capacity, and the capacity is committed to Loveland, not to the county. And that makes the need for sewer makes them want to come into Loveland. Plus they get the police
I certainly also want to thank a couple of residents in particular that I thought made points that were the same ones that kept reverberating for me. Mr. Mullins' question on, why is it that when we annex land, it comes in as residential low density? I think that's a really good question to try to understand what was the intent of having that as our law, is that when we bring something in, it comes in at the lowest possible zoning density. And then Mr. Rutter, I think is how I pronounce it. He really laid out exactly the scenario of the multiple parties and the facets and each party's role in this. I'd be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to try to elaborate a little bit more on our role here as a Planning and Zoning Commission is to look at an application as objectively as possible with staff support and apply the rule, our code, to that application and then make a recommendation to council. We are not, taking a stance in this and we have to look at these applications as they come in. So some of the comments which were emotional, I think, in nature, alluding to the fact that the council or the Loveland leaders are allowing this to happen, it's because we have to allow this to happen. When somebody comes with us with an application, it's our duty and obligation to do that, to evaluate that for what it is. So I think this is a great lesson in local government, and everyone here plays an important role in that. For me personally, promote creative and sensitive site planning is written in here as the purpose and scope. And I mentioned when we voted to move this to a public hearing that I recognize the creativity in the site plan proposed by Dries. Certainly they were very creative in their design. There's a lot of imagination and creativity utilized in that site plan. But I wonder about the sensitive site planning aspect of it. Some of the things, it just makes a great leap from residential low density to what we have here is a 92% greater than residential low density. That's quite a leap. So I don't know, from a sensitivity standpoint, I think we see the reaction just at the proposition of doing that, what the community sort of generally reacts to that. So again, in the area of sensitive site planning, we talk about its relationship with its neighbors. And on one side is a Claremont County Park, and on another side is St. Columban, which is using for football fields and recreation. So I don't know that 209 homes in between those two represents, a smooth transition. Is that in the spirit of sensitive site planning? Then it says it is the intent of this section to provide. It is the intent of a special planning district. It is the intent of this section to provide for a district which will permit a greater range or mixture of compatible uses in areas than would be allowable in the standard zoning. And so, a greater range or mix of compatible uses. I think one of the things that is interesting there to me is this aspect of floor area ratio. So, being new to this. All this definitions and vernacular here, this is essentially the relationship between the lot size and the structure, the floor area ratio. And so what's listed in the proposal is a ratio between 2 to 4 and 3 to 5. And it's a little fuzzy with the math because we do it in decimal points in the code. But again, that's a lot area coverage of between 50% and 60% of built structure on the lot. So that's putting a lot of house on a larger area of the lot. Whereas we're looking at 0.20 for low density, 0.20 for medium density. So it goes beyond our normal floor area ratio, and it's the same floor area ratio roughly on all of the different. They have legacy, heritage, and tradition. It's large in all accounts. So I don't necessarily see that as a greater range or mixture of compatible uses. And then the other thing it says while also requiring features that protect against negative impacts of incompatible land uses or harm to the environment. And so looking at some of the plan, I see some things that are interesting in terms of, I guess you could say, is this protecting against the negative impact? There's a pretty sharp curve to coming into the on Obanionville. I don't know how safe that is from a safety perspective. The Obanionville entry is quite a sharp turn into a heavily inclined area. Again, sorry, I'm not the expert of this. Is taking me back to my Boy Scout days with the topographic map. And then in another area of maybe negative impact is lots 127 through 133, 176 to 180, 157 and 158 are on very heavily, steep grades. So I don't know what kind of an impact that's going to have on stormwater, just in the general neighborhood. And then the other thing related to the stormwater and the runoff is that there's a 5 foot to 10 foot combined side yard setback, which is difficult to accommodate the stormwater on those adjacent lots. So I think those things, to me, cause pause when it comes to... and finally, the last issue from the city's perspective is there's a connector road, and right around in the middle, it's sort of the retention pond, and there's a dam, sort of the road creates a dam. And so I'm just a little concerned about the amount of water pressure there. It's sort of in the area of... let's see, I'll refer back to my notes here. The road serves as a new dam, and it may have a continuing impact on the function and integrity of the roadway. It's the embankment on the west side of the proposed road at this location, the pond crossing in the fill area. It just seems like there's a little bit of a pressure point. So, again, from a negative impact and the long-term consequences, is that going to become an area that the city's going to have to look and address to? Again, I don't know the answer to that, and we're open to hearing some group's feedback on that. But that's, to me, those are the... Looking at the application and looking at the purpose and scope, for me, those are the big questions.
Mark?
Okay. Yes.
I can answer some of your concerns. Part of the reason we have special planning districts is when you look at those hard numbers in the charts, the fact that they have open space, you kind of count that toward. In other words, okay, to get this open space, we're going to scrunch the houses on little smaller lots and change that floor ratio. So that's part of what is involved in our looking at the project for special planning district. As a matter of fact, I've lived in Loveland 50 years, been on this commission over 20. Several of the people here spoke against planning and zoning, making special planning districts. They happen to live in special planning districts. So I live in one. I didn't know it till I got on the commission. So, and to me, it just looks like a medium density subdivision. So, the whole purpose of the special planning district is when you have an area like this, they've already got some ponds, they've got some ravines. Okay, let's start pulling things in tighter. Let's change the lot sizes. Let's change the ratios a little bit so that we can preserve those features that we want to preserve. And as far as the drainage is concerned, we've got a city engineer that worked with her for 20 years. She's not nice when it comes to drainage and developers. The apartment complex on Loveland Madera, they were going to run through an existing 12-inch pipe when they got down to the hill, and her calculations show it should be 12.5-inch. So they had to rip out an existing pipe that was 12-inch and put in a 15-inch to meet her standards. So I really don't worry too much about drainage, and that really comes in later when they get to the design issues. So the other thing is talking about I'd like to solve the school issues, but that's been voted down twice. and I'd like to solve the recreation, but years ago we had a vote on YMCA, and this town voted it down. I also, recently there was an article in the Wall Street Journal that in the last 20 years we have underbuilt based on new established family units. We have underbuilt our homes in the United States by 50%. So, we just, now the one thing that I personally I live in a cul-de-sac. There's 14 homes. 7 of the homes are occupied by retirees. We'd all like to downsize, but there's nowhere for us to go right now. So that's an issue. That's basically all. I like that they have some patio homes, which is about a third of the development. And I would really like to know what the ratio is of the patio homes across the street that were built and how many children live in those patio homes, to see how that number would work out for the school district. I've been up there a few times and I really don't see much evidence of those homes having children in the household. I'd like to know that number so that could
across the street. What are you referring to?
Yeah, at the White Pillars. Yeah, yeah. There's a stretch of patio homes in there that would basically have the same kind of homeowner. So that's all I have for right now. I originally thought about maybe we need to update the traffic study, but I understand what he's saying, that it was 60 years ago I co-op City of Columbus traffic engineering, so I have a little bit of background in that.
Sure. Good. All right, I'll go ahead and make a few comments. So obviously this being annexed in from Miami Township, that really is a positive, I think, because this location, whatever happens here, if there's people living there and kids, they're in the school district. So if it were to stay in Miami Township, then Miami Township can do whatever they want with that property. It's currently zoned mixed-use institutional. That includes residential, and then they could also then rezone it to just about anything that they want to. So that is a good thing for us. Looking at some of our guiding documents related to comprehensive plans, the 2002 comprehensive plan actually does mention this property. It identifies 14 locations for growth, and this is one of them, and it identifies it as residential. The draft version of the comprehensive plan that I think was mentioned by by somebody that spoke, it's in draft format. It has a section called expansion opportunities, and there's a picture of this property in the document, and so it's using that for the discussion of expansion. But I'll read real quick what it says. It is possible that additional expansion opportunities for the city may arise that will allow for new development potential. This may include new low-density residential development to the north and east of the city and new commercial development along primary thoroughfares. So again, some of those tools that we have to look to help make decisions. Again, it does indicate this to be a residential development. And I think what we're hearing, and from everybody here as well, that we recognize that, but what does that look like?
Mm-hmm.
So
agreed. I mean, so the question I would wonder would be, was this ever considered to be developed by Dries at a different density, residential low density, residential medium density, or was special planning district always the,
Background again, SPD 9, 13, and 14 were brought in the same way, low density, rezoned to essentially what is now medium density. And of course, across the street is White Pillars, which is 2.4, which is at the high end of medium density.
Yeah, I think one of the issues is that the housing stock in Loveland is pretty much uniform right now, and I think it sounds like, and we did have other people present to us over time when we were doing we're looking at trying to bring in a new master plan, and one of the studies talked about empty nester homes and types of homes that aren't in Loveland right now, and the people that want to stay in Loveland but cannot do so because the housing stock is not here for downsizing. It's just family homes, if you will. So I think that's a consideration that has to be thought about, and that's what we heard too, not just today what Loveland's going to be. And I graduated from Loveland High School in 1982. I grew up here. I was here when Loveland was, there was nobody downtown for the most part, and it was a decaying, decrepit town. And I said, well, what am I going to do here? So I can appreciate, and with growth comes, the struggles that we all have, and traffic, and trying to figure out what we want to be next year and 10 years and 20 years from now, and try to set that. So, the special planning districts give us the ability to push and pull and change things a little bit to try to manipulate some of the things. And we have some control over it when we do it this way too. We just aren't, I know everybody's concerned about the layout and the densities. We do have some say in how we want to make some adjustments if this were to move forward. So we're not just, at this point approving what has been presented to us. We're strictly approving the concept of whether it can meet the intent of a special planning district and move forward, and then it would go to council. And then if we're to get through council, it would come back to here. So this is a long process, and we greatly appreciate everybody's input. That's what makes us a great community. We have to follow the procedures, and that's one of the reasons we have this. Is this was actually the city brought these meetings, public meetings, in greater numbers to hear everybody's input versus having it later in the process where all of a sudden, hey, here's the plan, we got to start, vote yes or no on it. So that's kind of where we are today. So is there any more comments or thoughts? Yes.
I have a problem in that, that everybody wants low density, but part of it is you got 72 units that are patio homes. So that by its nature enters into the equation and creates a density, apparent density that's greater, but what you're doing is you're cramming more homes onto tighter lots for downsizing. So those are almost higher density in that area mixed in with a lower density. So you get kind of a blend of the two, and how does that affect the total density of the entire site? Because part of the special planning district is, okay, we're going to trade smaller lots for open space. And they've got 34, a third of it's open space. I live in Glen Lakes, and we've probably got 5% open space. It was a special planning district 45 years ago.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. We'd have to ask the density of these is close to other special planning districts. Is that correct?
I looked at a couple, and White Pillars is I think about 2.5, and then it's actually 4.25 in the patio section that's up by the road. But there was some different math in there. I think it comes out to be about 2.3, and then Butterworth Glen is about 2.2. And so
this one
was 1.9.
Yeah, that's what you get in the special planning district. The density gets a little bit funky because of the patio homes that you work into the subdivision. And the other thing is bringing it in low density. SPD4, where I live, I originally was a horse farm. So, but it is surrounded on three sides, almost wrapped around it. The existing zoning around it already was medium density. So that's basically what it was zoned to. It was brought in as low density, but it's now medium density that kind of matches. And that's what we would have here. Here's the new development. You've got medium density all around it, and White Pillars is essentially medium density. So,
yeah, I know and what Mr. Katie referred to the comprehensive plan back in. This is the one that's the last one we have is 2002 that's been officially authorized, or not the draft. It talked about residential, non-residential, and mixed use, and even the non-residential. It refers to any land use that is inferred to produce jobs, including but not limited to commercial, office, or industrial uses. So it was pretty broad stroke of what Grailville could be used for. And I'm not saying we would want it to use it for that, but it was a pretty wide open thought process. This is 20 years ago, of course, but at the time that's what was pretty broad. So.
again, I recognize the points around the value of a special planning district and its appropriate use. I do think that the fact that this is recently annexed land into the city of Loveland bears consideration and repeating, because of the fact that this is more or less its first and most recent opportunity for us to make a recommendation of its future use. Our rules suggest a starting point which has a minimal impact on density. The annexation rules, by making them coming in at residential low density. From there, these rules which we're going through certainly apply. But to me, the jump from residential low density to a special planning district, which mirrors medium density, only when you look at it in the totality of it, yet there are pieces within the patio homes, as we keep referring, where it's even greater density, makes it a little more complicated, a little more difficult to, I think, to stick true to that original intent of staying with a minimal density from an annexation standpoint. That's the part I'm having a hard time.
Originally, when White Pillars was brought before us, they wanted to have a commercial zone, and that we didn't allow that. We backed them down, and they wound up with the patio homes in White Pillars. So that allowed them to, what you get into on this is the value of the land is a certain percentage of the finished sale price. So if we go to low density, are we saying, well, the only thing we want is $1.5 million, $2 million homes there? And will they sell without a golf course and all that other things that price home requires?
Fair point, but I don't know that that's what we would need to be considering, whether or not, the future case. To your point about White Pillars, is that it went through multiple iterations before settling on something that was acceptable.
Right, and up on 2nd Street, they want 64 units, and they're now down to 9. So, the process we have, that's kind of how it works. Mm-hmm. I would be inclined to table it till the next meeting. Give it some more thought. I'm going to do some more research on.
My thought is, if we're going to give the developer more time, then we ought to request and stipulate a traffic study
updated
by a third party recommended by the city.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same traffic study that was done for another SPD that was approved. Both attorneys and traffic studies are the same people.
Yeah. I had updated traffic study in my notes.
Dishonesty just doesn't get us anywhere, folks.
Yeah.
Assuming the city engineer's not looked at this, because we're not at that stage yet. No. No. And so, we could also ask for, I think, the question on density. And so land use is tough because this property, even though we might want to say it needs to come in at a certain density, it may not lend itself to be able to build on that density unless there's maybe 2 or 3 houses or 10 houses. I don't know the answer to that. It's look at the topographic map. There's a lot of hills and terrains, and the ability to build houses, evenly spread out across this property may not work, and with stormwater retention requirements and everything else. I don't know if that's been looked at or not.
It looks like they're laying the roads out on the ridges.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Homes, and that's another reason why the front lots setbacks is less, that they can pull them closer to the road. We've run into that in a couple other subdivisions. In fact, I think it was Brandywine. We eliminated the sidewalks on one side to move the homes off the top of the hillside above the bike trail. So.
But if we want to table it and get more information, then
that's procedurally, you're not tabling it. You're going to continue it for review.
Continue. Okay.
We have a motion that direction, or do we want to?
I move we table the case.
Eva,
go ahead.
Mr. Brown, just for clarification, are we setting that up for the next scheduled meeting,
I would-
or until we get the documents from?
Well, I was going to ask for two things for the chair. I would like to have you continue it to a specific date, whether that's a special meeting or a regular meeting. I think that's your question.
Mhm.
And then number two, it would be nice if you could give staff some guidance so that Mr. Wright and Mr. Kennedy would be able to know what it is you would like to see on that review period. And I think it would also benefit the applicant. I've heard you say that you'd like to have an independent traffic study, which the city can conduct. But is there anything else you would like to see?
I'd like to see it paid for by the developer.
I think a comparison of other special planning districts and densities would be helpful for us to understand what's been done in the past and allowed in the past.
I'd also like to know how many homes in the White Pillars patio home area have children in the district. You know, what load did that put on this? Because we have 72 homes coming in with almost no children, that is a consideration.
While we're giving our wish list, I'd like to know what are the areas in this plan that are not suitable for development, and how strategic were those in that plan, because they talk a lot about open space and 33% of the development is open space. So, personally, I'd like to have a little bit more clarity on all the specific areas is it all the open space that is, one of our speakers mentioned that the open space is area that is not suitable for development. So to me, that appears as if it is a SPD that was maxed out. And I'd like to know if there were any considerations made for a reduction in the number of houses to create a little bit more of that open space aspect.
That information is on Exhibit C, and maybe we could have the city engineer look at that.
Are you asking, though, that if something like a stream is not going to get developed, that it not be included in an open space calculation?
I guess what I'm saying is the open space that is on this plan, I guess what I'm asking is, what areas are not suitable for development, and then is that a 1-to-1 correlation of the areas that are claimed as open space in this SPD? That would be the way I would phrase that question. So I don't know if that'd be something that the engineer could look at.
Yeah, she'd be able, because looking at Exhibit C, it's pretty obvious that they're not building on those hillsides.
Right. No, I understand that, but I guess what I'm trying to get at, Mr. Kressler, is every available developable area where a house would go? It's kind of the question I'm asking. Is this maxed out to be a house in every lot?
I would assume they did.
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Excuse me. I appreciate what Mr. O'Neill was saying, but I think it would be better if the city paid for the traffic study. Just saying, to me, it would allow it to be more independent, and it would be an expense that the city would incur. I've never done this before, but I guess my gut feeling would be, from both sides, it would be better if the city hired an engineer, a traffic engineer. We use a firm called TEC. Well, I think that's what should be done. Just send them the bill. Okay. It happens to me all the time. I'm a constructor.
Do we need to have all that in the motion, or Eva, do you have the sense of what we request?
We got it.
I have it recorded.
Okay.
So you just need to pick a date certain, and I think you as a body have to decide if you want to do a special meeting or a regular meeting.
It won't be April 1.
It won't be April.
It won't be your April meeting.
No, we have to. We have to have. I guess
Packets go out in 2 weeks.
I'm sorry?
I said packets for the April meeting go out in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And we need a study before then, and we've got to get that hired. And
Why don't we say the May meeting?
I just want to add again, just because ultimately me and my staff have to come back with this. I don't know exactly how I'm going to find out how many children are in the patio homes portion of without me going areas that I probably shouldn't go.
We know street address, and that's easy. I'm sure the school district could provide us.
I just don't know how I'm going to do that.
Random, they wouldn't give us any names or anything. They could just say on whatever it is that there's 16 students, 8 students, no students. They've got a bus route computer system that picks up kids, so I've worked on that program, so I know they do have that.
I'm all willing to get anything you
I'll go door to door if you need me.
Probably better you than me.
Just to play devil's advocate,
I just want to know.
I'm curious. Tabling or continuing this to a future.
We've continued 2nd Street almost a year. Okay. And we're almost ready to sign off on it.
we've pushed and pulled these a lot. So
okay.
Yeah.
So all right. Do we?
It's kind of like council on emergency measures.
So
don't do it if you don't have to. Let's tap the brakes.
So we then, if I'm hearing right, we need a motion to continue, and then, but we're not going to be able to set a date for further review.
You have a May meeting date.
We could.
When Eva will give us a May meeting date, we should be okay by May. That's
the first Tuesday is May 3rd.
Assuming we can get the information.
We have to have 30 days.
We can have up to 2 meetings in a month, so if we need to add a second May meeting, we could do that.
Mr. Braun, isn't there something in the code that says they have to make a decision after 30 days of the public hearing? Or 45?
It's within 30 days from the date of the public hearing. When we've done this step before, there was a mutual agreement from both parties to allow us to extend it, so the city isn't violating their own codes. The way the code reads, it says the city, within 30 days of the public hearing, the Planning and Zoning Commission shall either the 3 items that I spoke before. So if we want to, if my question to you, Joe, is by continuing it,
it's not closed yet.
It's not closed yet, so
right.
Go on until okay.
Right. The way the code reads is it says within 30 days of the public hearing. This public hearing is ongoing when you continue it, and that's a common practice. What I'm not comfortable with, though, is not having us set a date by which we will continue it to. I think we have to do that. It can't be open-ended because we are continuing this ongoing hearing. That's one of the reasons I don't want it tabled. It can't be tabled. It's got to be continued. It's in progress.
Okay.
I move we continue it to the May 1st meeting of Planning and Zoning. May 3rd meeting, Planning and Zoning.
May 3rd at 7.
Wait, what is it?
May 3rd, Tuesday, May 3rd.
It's our regular first Tuesday of
Yeah.
May 3rd at 7 p.m.
May 3rd at 7 p.m.
Yes, May 3rd at 7 p.m. Tuesday, May 3rd at 7 p.m.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Redmond,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mr. Katie,
Yes.
Mr. Kressler,
Yes.
Mr. Bateman,
Yes.
5-0, motion carries.
All right. Let's see what other order of business. My agenda. Do we have any old business? I don't see anything. Nope. No old business. Any communications from the?
No, but I'll just say thank you again to everybody that came out today. All parties that spoke and presented. I think this was, productive for us to hear and to hear your points of view. And stay tuned. I think this thing is going to continue on until May 2nd and
3rd.
May 3rd. May 3rd.
Because you're here, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, But because the public hearing is being continued, we do not do a full another round of public notifications. So am I correct or wrong? Just to make sure. So at this point,
we're not required to.
There won't be a whole nother round of letters to those. For those of you got letters, you received the letter because we were within so many feet of the footprint of the development. But because to continue it, as this texture they're doing, there would not be another round of letters to go out. I just wanted to be honest so everybody knew. Typically, when these are continued, there's not another round of letters or.
It will be publicized, though.
Oh, it would be publicized. Sure. Yeah. I would. Yeah. The meeting.
Well, that's up to the committee because they've already held the public session. So that's.
They'll have an open forum.
Well, we do have
There's an open forum.
We do have an open forum. Same rules, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Open forum, you can come for whatever.
You can talk.
I would like to point out Mr. Miller just made a very valid point. May 3rd may be an election date, and this is an election hall. Thank you, Dave. So.
Yeah, that won't work.
Thanks, Dave.
Let me check.
Yeah.
I would have had to clean that. I know, but I think we need to change that date to May 4th, which would have been a mess that I would have had to try to clean up. Then you would have all got letters, so I would have felt terrible about it. But May 4th is what we would typically do. If the planning commission date falls on a date that we can't meet, we don't move to the Monday, we move to the Wednesday. So, don't tell me that doesn't work either. May 4th?
No, I was double checking. I think we need to check the community calendar to make sure no one else is using the council chambers. Just a thought.
Meet in the Argo room.
We can move it. Anybody else that would be that night would be a smaller committee. We can move them into
Okay.
Argo. Don't you think, Eva?
Yeah.
I think you're correct, Dave.
Well, thank you. I think you should recommend May 4th because if the election goes on, this room is completely stuffed.
I move we change the meeting date to May 4th. 7
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Stop this. I'm the only one. They didn't this time.
Not how I saw that going. Except they changed the meeting date.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I got it on here. As long as one of us is covered. Hi, doll. Oh, no, you know her.
How are you? How are you? You might not work. The site, I've been talking about this with the rest of the but
Let me tell you about this guy. He comes in running.
Be nice.
Yeah, I have
And look at.
Good to see you guys.
He's already writing legislation.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. Hi. I remember you. Nice to see you again. Thanks. I appreciate that. I wanted to vote. Yeah. That's what people want. I did too.
Hey!
We will. Yeah. We need to take There's too many queuing
This is where I go turn lights out.
Sorry, I'm trying to go. It's not wrong. Okay, I understand. But if they didn't put it back up on the stand, they wouldn't have the intent. When you get into the I know you gave me a look, but I was like, I know somebody.
Oh,
no.
I recognize him, and I think he did the traffic study. Is that Jamal?
Well, I had an opportunity.
No, it wasn't that. It was I recognize him.
I said, brand new. You did a good job. That was a tough job. That was a tough job. We didn't make it easy on you. That was one of the best projects I ever did. It was a lot of fun. Doing good. Doing good. So, well, I'm glad to see you out and about. You're still.
Hey, good to see you.
Anyway, you take care. Well, we'll see you.
Kathy just texted me, turn your mic off.
I also did.
Especially